Hello everyone, it's Vivian here from V Designs. This morning I'm going to be making a little wreath for a nursery. So it'll either be going for the nursery wall or the little bedroom door, I suppose. So the colours I'm going today, well, you sort of start with the sign. There's the little sign, if you can see the reflection. And it's in a lovely sort of a pale, what would you call, greens. It's all different tones of green in it, which suits well. And if ever you're doing anything, it's always good to really look at the sign or whatever and pick out colours, because you see you have red, you have blue there as well if the fancy takes you. But the reason I'm showing this to you today is because the ribbon, I'm going to do it in white deca mesh, and the ribbon I think is such a little sweet ribbon. And even though the main colours that stand out are the white, the green and the blue, there is a wee tiny hint of pink in it. So it could do for really anybody. But I also have this, the same sign in the blue. So I thought it was ideal that, you know, the blue can do, you know, the blue sign can do the same, what would you call it, the same scheme. Because you still have different tones of everything in there. Like you can't really see it in camera, but there's a fine yellowy green outline in the name there as well, the letters, sorry. So I'm going to start this today and we'll just see where it takes us. Okay, we'll set that to one side. Oh, sorry. We also need a good pair of scissors for cutting our ribbons. I had out an ordinary pair of scissors just for cutting the cable ties, but if you saw my last video, I'd run out of the little cable ties and ended up having to use these ones, which I think it's heartbreaking because it seems to be such a waste. So I need the nips to cut them. And then, just off topic altogether, I did order white cable ties, but they come, look at the colour of them, they're yellow, little creamy colour. So I really would not be happy sending out a wreath. I do try my best to match the basic colour of the deca mesh to the cable ties, because that's what you're going to see on the back of your wreath is the cable tie, you know. So if you had red mesh and you had the, you know, maybe a white cable tie, to me that just, if I can avoid it, I will. Alright, now, so we'll have to get started here. Oh, I need the wreath. Hang on. Start again. I'm going to do this today with the 12-inch wreath frame. Sorry, 10-inch wreath frame. Just to be sure. Yep, 10 inches. But I'm going to show you the size of the 12-inch. Alright, says she. Hopefully I can. Right, there's a good difference in it, but what I like to do about the smaller one is that the ruffles are going to be more, what would you call it, thicker, more volume to it, more dense in the smaller wreath frame, because these deco mesh rolls come in at about 10 yards. I know it's American, so it's 9 point something meters. But if I make 10-inch loops to make, you know, a puff, a 10-inch puff, it means that's about 25 centimeters in new money. I should be able to get 36 puffs out of one roll. Now, I have done stuff before and it's short change. You don't get your 36 puffs out of a roll, but it'll never really be noticed as long as it's not missing 4 or 5. But I try to do the slightly smaller wreath, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants, and if I intend to get 36 10-inch puffs out of a 10-yard roll, there's a bit of mathematics for you, 10 yards is 360 inches, and if there's going to be 10 inches in each puff, that's why I made them 10 inches, because it's easy to calculate, I'll get 36 puffs. And if there's 4 quadrants, that's 9 puffs per quadrant. Alright, all being well, mightn't work out like that, but all being well, that's what I intend to do. So that's the mathematics lesson over for this morning, so we'll get right into it. Alright. Now, another reason I actually like using the deco mesh this way, another reason is that you have to sort of feel underneath. Do you see where the wire crossband is? I like to make sure when I'm making my wreath that that crossband is face up. Do you see what I mean? That it's welded to the top. You work like that, there's more chance of it hitting your door and that, but that's actually not quite true, because there's that much mesh on it, you may never touch your door at all. Right folks, enough rambling. Take your deco mesh roll, which will stick to your jumpers, yeah, gather it up, because if you've ever worked with deco mesh before, you'll understand that it's a fray. It frays like the devil. It just is, it's unbelievable. So this method that I use, now I don't know if anybody else uses it or not, but I just found this works for me. This is the one raw end that you'll have, and I'll have it well tied down, and the only other raw end you should have on your little wreath is the one that finishes at this end, finishes it off. Okay, so pepper at the ready. This will always be your top because it's coming off the roll. It's always, that's you're always your top, okay? So it's coming off over the top of your roll. Now just for this one, I turn it down, place it on the ring, the inner ring. I don't know why, there's no right or wrong way, that's just the way I like to do it. I slide my oversized cable tie in underneath that ring. Okay, can you see that inner ring? I place this down on top and tighten it up. Alright, of course it is flipped over, it should be on the other side. That's it. Took me a wee while to catch on how to know your inside and outside from your cable tie, but sure, that's a story for another day, isn't it? Now, simple job. You can just see where I have that tied now down to the inner ring, and you'll see that it should still slide slightly, so that helps later on when you're trying to rearrange the puffs on the wreath form itself. So that's the first one done, first one down. Now I told you I like to tidy this off, so I wiggle that across. Can you see? That's the way it was there. I wiggle that across to here, and I use another zip tie on the bar, goes through the bar, that dividing bar. Okay, can you see that? I hope you can, I really hope you can. Doing this on my own today. Sometimes when I have my daughter helping me, she can say, yes mum, you can see it, or you can't see what you're doing. Now I take the zip tie, I have trapped the mesh in underneath on the crossbar, and give that a good pull. Alright, and that's that done. Okay, now you might see I have a wee bit of sellotape on this. Sometimes the bars, the metal bars, are very sharp, and I've tried filing them and it doesn't work. So I find when I put a bit of sellotape over it and then you've the mesh over the top, it works a treat. Now you can trim this wee bio off at the end, trim off your mesh. There's not a much, you see what I mean? Like, see that wee bit there? mesh is a very much a fray. It frays like the devil. Now, so I like to try, and when I'm folding or measuring the loops, can you see, I try to have to see that raw end. It's not a raw end, it's the two edges of the mesh. Try and keep them slightly tucked in. It just means that you've less hazard. Imagine mesh being called a hazard. Right, so I measure out just roughly 10 centimetres, 10 inches, which is what, 25 centimetres. And what do you call it, because I started and secured the first part of the loop to the top ring, I'm going to secure this one to the bottom ring. Doesn't matter where inside that quadrant you go, because you can slide them about. Do you remember saying you can slide them about to alter, you know, the positioning of them later on. That's great. And try and keep the, well, if you do it the way I'm doing it, you'll be cutting the cable tie off in the top just to tidy it off, and that's where you want to keep it. That's where you want to keep it, because you don't want anything rough in the bottom, just in case it would hit a door. Now, slide that up. So we have the first anchoring cable tie on the inner ring, and we have the second one on the outer ring, which makes that first loop. Okay, and you just keep going on, and yeah, Deca mesh, it is sticky and it catches on your clothes, but I think it's worth it. Now this one measured 10 centimetres, going to go on the inner ring, and your cable tie, which keeps twisting for some reason. Anyway, that's only me. Hang on. There we go. And get them down. I fight with them for a wee while. Yes, I win. God, I shouldn't say that. Kiss of death. Anywho, so that's 2 loops I've done. Alright. And then you can fluff it up a wee bit if you wish. When you see me doing this, I'm sort of trying to keep the edges in underneath, but at the same time try and make it as wide as I can. Yes, yeah, trying to do everything. Again, measure out your 10 inches down onto the opposite rung from the last time. Whoop, there's my roll of mesh into my bin. Maybe the safest place for it, where it's a devil for catching on my clothes, especially jumpers. And I'm out in the cabin and I need a jumper. Don't care what people say about it being spring, I need a jumper. Now, and this is what you do, folks, right across. You count all the wee loops, all the, what do you call it, the loops for the Deca mesh. I, as I said, calculated I should be able to get 9 into each little quadrant. I do have another frame somewhere. I couldn't find it this morning. How many quadrants have I got? Haven't I got 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I have another frame somewhere, and there's actually 5 quadrants in it. So I had to cut that down to 7, and it's just as well I did, because I hadn't an inch left, and 7 5s is 35, which is 350 inches, not 360. So yeah, you're probably falling asleep at the stage, aren't you? I promise, once I get this first quadrant done, I'll put you on fast forward and you can listen to some YouTube music while I'm doing this. So that's your choice, whether you think I'm worse than YouTube music. Oh dear lordy, you have to laugh at yourself, don't you? Have to laugh or you'd cry. Anyway, this is what you just do. Just keep going on ahead. Up, you know, the top row. The top ring, and then to the bottom ring, top ring, bottom ring. I think it sort of just makes it a wee bit more balanced looking, makes it a wee bit more fuller looking. But I mean, you don't have to do that. In fact, I've other wreaths made here, a different method altogether, but you do end up with a lot of fraying. But that's just par for the course whenever you're using Deca-Mesh. It's just something that it happens. It happens. You make the wreath and you do your best and you trim it up and tidy it up and move along. That's all you may do. Now, I have just been talking away as per usual, and I need to count how many loops I've done. I don't think I've enough yet, but we'll count. And I'll show you what, maybe a wee bit closer up. I still think I've a couple to do, but we'll see. Now, here we go. Started off at the very start with this one here. Can you see? With this one here, and I anchored it down there, okay? So from here to here was 1 loop, 2 loops, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 2 more loops to put into this wee quadrant, and as you can see, it's getting quite full already, which is what we want. We want it to look nice and full. We want it to be lush. Maybe that's not the word for a little wreath, but you know what I mean. You want it to be nice and full and as pretty as you like. And I think whenever it's not, if it's a bit skimpy looking, it's not the best look. And if you're making these wreaths to sell, you want them to be as full and as lush and as pretty as can be. But then again, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, isn't that what they say? Okay, calculations are correct. I need to do another one. Okay, and we'll count again. I'm always a good woman for counting. Always like to keep counting. Then you'll never be taken by surprise. Famous last words. Okay, so we're, whoops, back and forwards with securing the mesh loops on, or poofs, whatever you like to call them, on the inner ring and then the outer ring of the wreath form. Now, so I should have 9 here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And as you can see, they all seem a pretty good height. That's because you're, now it doesn't have to be perfectly 10 inches, but try and get them as near as you can, because you don't want one that's sitting away up. Well, unless that's the look you're going for. But for me, I like them even. So I'm going to maybe keep quiet now and just run this on a fast forward or time lapse, whatever sort of a job you like to call it, and I'll let you see it all, because I think sometimes the only way to learn is to actually watch it, you know, to watch it and keep watching it. That's how I learned. Sometimes I would watch things and watch them, and then they'll sink into me how it's made or how it's done. Oops, it is it. There we go. Catching my wee jumper again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, I'm going to count out my 9 ties. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I've one already done. To see, that might be a helpful tip as well, to actually count out the ties, and that counts out the loops you've made. So whenever you use these ties, you know, you have your 9 loops, but I always double check anyway. Always, always, always. Because that's just the sort of person I am. Doubting Thomas. Doubting Thomas. No. Okay, not going to talk anymore now. That's a lie. Always talk. say, when you do your 9 loops, you don't have to do anything in particular to start off the next quadrant, because your loop's not going to go any further. You know, your 9th isn't going to go any further than the crossbar. So you can rearrange them there, you know, but I mean, so the next one just goes in this, and you'll find, as you've seen, by the time you get to number 9, it's quite full and compact. They're not really going to go anywhere, they're not going to slip anywhere. Now, I think at this point, we'll call this a J. Okay. Now, I think I'm putting on doing the green one today, aren't I? Or am I doing the blue? Do the green today. Now, a beautiful green ribbon, if I can find the start of it. Here we go. Yeah, some of the ribbon here comes in now. I think I'm going to have this as quite a long tail. I can always change my mind. And yeah, long tail. Not that long, maybe. What length is that? 16 inches, okay. That's a decent tail. This ribbon I'm going to do slightly smaller. It's very bendy, is it? It's very... should never bend the ribbon, I shouldn't fold the ribbon. But that's what they do whenever they're posting it to you to save in postage. I would nearly pay to have it coming the right way, but... okay, nobody else sees it like that. No. I want to make this about 5 inches. Okay. You sort of can see that I'm trying to more or less position the ribbon where I want it to go. Now that's not obviously what happens. We have to still fluff. I still find that a hilarious, beautiful wee term. I just love saying it. I'm gonna fluff my ribbons. Now, do you think is that enough colour in there for that wee ribbon? Or that wee bow? Is that enough colour there? In between, in between, in between, in between, in between. Another one maybe. It should be down here, shouldn't it? And there, and there, and there. Yeah, I think that's me. And one more here, I think. No. And that. Now, I think that looks quite pretty. Do I want anything more in there? Do I want anything else in there? So I'm going to go in between the colours again, but this time I'm going to go smaller. And a bow, sorry, what's this going to be? Eight inches on top. It's too long, far too long for what I want it for. 6 inches on top. You see, this is it. You fiddle around to see what you like. There's no right or wrong way, and anybody that tells you there is fibbing basically. I've just thought I want to do my ends. I want to dovetail my ends. I used to say dovetail the joints, but that's apparently a carpentry term. Dovetailing the joints. Anywho, yeah, that's the sort of house you live in round here. Now, I am going to do a little small, much smaller. What size would this be? 3 inches. So we had the outer one at 6, 5, and just 3. I just want a couple of wee loops at about 3 inches. That'll be about 3 inches. Yeah, it's about 3, looks okay. And take the tail down here. Okay. And take the tail up here. Now, no, we're not finished. See, sometimes I don't really measure. You see, I'm trying to measure for you to tell you what I'm doing, but sometimes I don't really. So again, a little 3-inch loop. This is more like it. See, I like big loops. I like big bows. I shouldn't say big loops because these aren't big. They're, you know, what, 3 inches? They're not big loops, but it's for a big bow. Now, we'll see how that takes us, where that takes us. Okay. looks a wee bit more substantial, doesn't it? I have pink glitter everywhere. Pink glitter everywhere. Now, always just try to get all your loops and ribbons and what have you into the cable tie, and just tighten it enough that you can sort of lift it off. Never seen my makers much covered with glitter before. Not for a long time. I love glitter, hate working with it. Now, this is where the crack starts. The fun. I get in trouble so good sometimes with that expression, but not here. Now, alright, so you'll find that even though you have a cable tie in there, sometimes it disappears if you like, whenever you're putting in whenever you tighten it up. And sometimes, oh dear, I've just bent that. Oh lordy, that's going to be a wee bugger to get in. Sometimes it's it'll disappear, and if it doesn't, you put a bit of ribbon in it. That's all you do. Now, as I said, you tighten it up, hold on. Whoops, they've slid out. All my talking. Right, and hold on to your pipe cleaners, and then you can do a wee bit of fluffing about. Okay, so sort of get everything where you would like it to be. Persuade it. That's the blessing with wired ribbon. You can do that. You can persuade things to go places where, well, they generally wouldn't. Now, I don't know if I'm fluffing this out of focus. And you see that whenever it was all bent, you just put your hand in it. Well, that's the way I do it. Put your hand in it. And there's a wee one there's getting lost. Again, I always find that until you put your bow on your project, you don't really get the feel for it. I know what I want to do with these, but again, until I get them on my wee project, I won't be able to. Now, going to do the dovetailing. And you know from my other wee videos, if you haven't watched it, I'll link it up here, okay? That how to make your bows, and then how to fluff your bows. Isn't that lovely? You can really see that. That's really nice. Okay, any more? Yep. So I just take my sweet time going around and fluffing, sorry, I'm fluffing on the brain, and do my dovetailing, because at the end of the day, as I said, until you actually get your bow onto your project, you don't really know how it looks, and then that's where you do all your business. Now, for the narrower one, you can dovetail if you wish. For this little one, I am going to see what this looks like. Again, it's always trial and error, but I don't care. I'm going to turn it over twice to leave a nice clean edge. Alright, then I am going to do the same on this side too. Oh, you see, this one was cut, sloped from the last project, but we're going to straighten it off. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm just turning the wire edges down and turning them down again about what, 1/8 of an inch, 1/2 centimetre. Alright, now what I want to do with these, I'm going to show you. I shouldn't have threw it out of the way. Now, it may not turn out the way I like it, but that's the inside tube of the deco mesh. And what I'm going to do is wrap the wired ribbon, the narrow one, just wrap it around it. Okay, hopefully when I take this off it'll be in position. Normally I just wrapped it around my fingers and pulled it down. Now, okay, so that's what we have there, and I want to do the same on this side. And wrap it, you know, tight enough that it's going to, you know, mould the ribbon. That's the main thing. You see what I'm doing? And then when you take it off, you can, well, if you lay on anything, you can fluff it back up again, you know. And that is, at the moment, that's the look of the ribbon. Again, it can always change, and if you take a wee look at my other wee video, you'll be able to see. Okay, well, we'll see how that looks now. Okay, look at all that. I love glitter coming out of places I didn't know you could put glitter into tonight. Where do you see? But it is beautiful. Anyway, here we go. Anyhow. Yeah, you see this is going to be pink glitter all over this. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to clean this a bit better because it's going to be pink glitter over everything. Now, I'm going to cut off the excess cable tie. This is my spot that's not very. Yeah, I'm going to try that the thing up here. Maybe that's what we'll do. The bow up here. Oh, let's see. I do a lot of we'll sees, don't we? Yeah, I have to look at it forwards, folks, I'm sorry. Now, how's that? And you see, you'd think it's sat on the bow, but we don't care because we can fluff it up. You think it's sat on the bow? No, it would never have survived that. So, look, I'm waffling again. I think I'm going to cut these a wee bit shorter, these wee tails. But see, that's the blessing of it all. You can do what you want. It's better a wee bit too long that you can cut off than too short and you can do nothing about them. Alright, okay. I'm going to try a different way and see what I think of, alright, which one I like the best. I always say making these is one thing, but deciding on the design is entirely a different thing altogether, and that's what happens. That's what happens. People think that you just fire these yolks up willy-nilly. No, unfortunately that's not the way it works. So this is my thin end. So what I might actually do, turn it around that way. Because remember, this is my thin end. I still have to cover this end up with the bow or the sign. So what I'm doing is I'm turning my turning my bow around. Okay. I think I'll put the sign. You see, that's not going to work. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. It's far too close, and it may well be, but I'm just trying out something here that I'm just wondering about. You know, I had this made in my head last night, and it's exactly not the way I wanted it made in my head last night. So work that one out. A couple of streamers. So there we are, folks. This is how the little wreath turned out. Can you see it all there in the camera? I think it's very sweet, very cute. All white, that's the back of it, and we ended up putting, as I say, a lovely little bow up the top with a wee touch of the green. Obviously you saw me making up the main big bow here. We have curled our little tails, and this side of the wreath looked a bit bare, so I made just a smaller version of the other bow, but I think it looks equally as nice. So that's what we've ended up with. So if you enjoyed watching that, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you now. Bye.